Ndiyavuya mani uba nawe apha ungangegunya likayise.
Thanks,
Yeah, better known as Ngange Ngxiki. I am excited to have you up. Inkulu kumlendo, having you up. I don't think a lot of people get the opportunity to have umuntu that they look up to and abe part yento zakhe as ba esaziqala. You know, you've been part of ubomi bam for ixesha elide ngoku. So otherwise, welcome to Phikelela podcast. Wamkelekile kakhulu.
No, thanks very much, VO. It's also I call you VO because I think that's what most people will call you, and we've called you that for a very long time. I guess it's because of the proximity that we've got as well. You and I have been very close on a personal basis for a very long time. Your story is one that's very well known, very well told. I think the time you spent inside, we connected very well. But more importantly for me, after you came out, we became very close. And I'm inspired by your own journey, by the way, the work that you've done on Phikelela, on iinkumbuzo. The way you've turned your life around is so inspiring. I always comment on your socials about how much of an inspiration you are to me. So to be here and for the two of us to have an opportunity to engage like this is a moment I've waited for a very long time. So I really am grateful. So thank you very much, Vio.
Yeah, and the fish are not in the guest. Yeah, inkosi kakhulu tata. You know, to be excited kakhulu ukuvunda bangamana sakwenza this, and I have so much, but ndayazi nxa ixesha ndiyafuna uya kwinto ezibalulekileyo. Yabo? Ndiyafuna uya kwinto ezibalulekileyo. Tata, siphila kwixesha where people are struggling. Siphila kwixesha where as much as people are struggling, sinentlahla yoba kwixesha as well where abantu can change ubomi babo. Where into yokuphumelela noba kungathiwa ixhomeke kwabanye abantu, uninzi lwento abantu bane-control. Inye into endifuna sithethe ngayo, xana ndijonga ubomi bakho, xana ndimamela izinto, I remember one time, hey, andandiba uyakhumbula na, sasidriver sisiya eGeorge, and I think it was ngumnyaka endandiphuma ngawo. You know, sasibhizi phana nenye business, yeah, and you shared izinto bengazazi ngawo. Hey, I was so touched. I cried, in fact, into yoba ngabana you've went through ezo zinto, and into eyayindililisa is at the time looking at you bangabana ukude uphayana and usukaphi. Namhlanje andifuna uyiphosa into yoba ngabana whatever ndayiva at the time sishera, I was touched, and I remember even from that day I felt into yoba ilizwe kuyafuneka live ngawe, ilizwe linga-inspired, ilizwe lingafunda something, because unqabile abantu bave izinto. Looking at social media at the moment, silandela ezizimbi. Anything embi, there's into embi yenzekayo, kumntu wayo, kumntu otheni, hayi ke siba excited social media, iyamove. Then anything eyakhayo, iyabhora. But today we are going to share ezo zinto because siyayazi noba ngabana someone uzaba right, uzakwenzeka, you know. Xana ndikujonga ndibona someone who has traveled ilizwe. In fact, mna I see abantu social media bahamba yabatheni. You are one of the few endiyazi personal that has traveled ilizwe. Not to travel nje, but ngenxa yomsebenzi. When I listen to you talk, indlela othetha ngayo iyabonakala ndoba you are supposed to be there. Awubekwanga nje. Anyone onokuva uthetha nobe kunothiwa akwaziyo ba lo mfana ungene njani apha, uzawubona no, lona is supposed to be here. From the way you command and the way othetha ngakhona. Just nje for umuntu ongayaziyo, I know of a few, but you've been to i-company ezininzi. You know, I know of Heineken. I know of, andazi uba Heineken or SAB is different companies. But actually ndiyayazi nalapho. I know into yoba ngabana you've been to i-company ezininzi, and not just i-company ezininzi, uphethe i-position eziphezulu. Position that mna I would feel into yoba ngabana hey akungeni nabani na. Ngokwale language yethu ungena ngekonokono. Funeka wazi umuntu, fakwe ngumuntu. If ungumuntu ongumama ingasanda kakubi ke lento. If ungumuntu ongumama because iyathethwa as much as imbi kuthiwa ulale your way up. Ulale your way up. Ibe ngekho njalo but noba khona kodwa kudla ngoba khona most into bakuthiwe apho khumsi ke kwalinye. Mhlawumbe bakhona bebekhe bayenza but ke kodwa ke imbi londo. So wena indlela from umuntu ongaphandle I get to see londo be excited. In fact into ndilibala into bangabantu nogqibele ukwenye and that hayi ke yogqibela ngenye game ndiva usithi useAfrika. Ndithi umuntu uyakwazi ufumana umsebenzi kwenye country
uyohlala kwenye
ilizwe. You know, khakhe nje undiphe nje apho man that into bangabana zindoni ubuzenza kwezi companies.
Okay.
You know, yeah, ndifuna sibuye from pa sizoyiqala nje apho into yobangabana you have done well.
Yeah.
You've
Thanks.
done well. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, VO. That really means a lot. Look, career VO started at the South African breweries after graduating, actually just down the road here, UPE at the time, the University of Port Elizabeth. I spent 4 years there and finished with an honors degree. And then I joined the South African breweries. I think I must have spent, my English, you would swear I'm from some fancy school, but I'm from Soqayisa. But no, I then joined the South African breweries, right? I spent about 8 years with the South African breweries. In that 8 years, I had about 4 different jobs. I joined them as an HR trainee, moved on to HR business partner, later on into a sales management role, which was a very big risk for both myself and SAB, but that went very well. I then got my first executive role actually was at the age of 26 at the South African breweries as area manager for the Southern Cape. So God has been very good. God has been very good. I then got promoted from that role and became regional marketing manager for KwaZulu-Natal. That was my first role where I sat as part of a senior leadership team, a team that had full profit and loss responsibility. And then from there on, I went to a very big role at Parmalat as general manager for KwaZulu-Natal. Yeah, general manager, full P&L responsibility, very big team there. It was an exciting role, did a lot of good work, turning that business around, making it profitable, helping it to grow volume and revenue, and connecting it with customers. Very, very nice role. And then Danone found out about what I was doing there. I went on to Danone. Very nice role at Danone as well, where I worked as general manager for their mainstream portfolio. Again, the challenge there, wanted to improve the profitability of the mainstream portfolio, mainly Nkomazi, which is a brand most people would know.
Mamela tata, ungekanishika
Yes.
kakhulu. You mentioned something you go to SAB took a risk. It was a risk in the Bombay sales.
Yes.
Umntu bukeleyo ngoku ithetha uthini kuye lonto? Like sales manager, why risk? You know?
That's a very good question, VO, because my education was in human resources. So very qualified human resources professional. When I started with the South African breweries, I also started in a human resources role. So I had absolutely no sales experience whatsoever. So they took me out of a human resources role, not even into a sales rep role in sales, straight into a sales manager role, where I had, I think at the time, about 5 sales reps reporting to me, 2 merchandisers responsible for all the the colored townships, and I'm sorry to use the term, in Cape Town, where I was responsible for. So in that sense, it was a very big risk to take someone from HR, give them such a big sales responsibility. Because remember, the thing about sales is that businesses rely on sales. It's taking the product to the market, creating the demand for the product, and then making sure that we get money in return for selling the product. So that's where the business revenue comes from. So that's why I'm saying it was actually a very big risk, because I could have failed and SAP would have said, hey, sorry, goodbye, we tried. Or SAP could have failed, right? That's why it was also a risk for them, because it could have compromised their reputation in the market. Why is SAP employing people that know nothing about sales? And customers could have been frustrated. So it was a big risk for both myself and SAP. Yeah.
Yo, yazi ngokundikumamela. Ndine picture yomuntu obufunda naye eMotherwell. Ephikiswa pha. Ndamazi Ngange. Ndamafunda twasuxoka. Hayi. Le bright apha. Yo. So you are saying to me umuntu uyakwazi ndoba angazinto adevelope over iminyaka and have the knowledge onayo today. That's what you are saying to me.
Spot on, VO. And it's possible for absolutely everyone, right? I mean, you say the Motherwell thing jokingly. So Kaisa Senior Secondary School today is one of the best in the country. When I was there in 1994, when I matriculated, it was one of the worst in the country.
What?
So yes, it was one of the worst in the country. And I say that with all due respect to the teachers that were there at the time. But it was really a bad school. I think the year we matriculated, maximum 4 of us got exemptions to go to university. And that's out of 10A, 10B, and 10C.
Hi.
And on average, about 35 people per class. And out of all of those people, only about 4 got exemptions to go to university. So it was a bad school. But to your point, it is possible for all of us, right? Because what we did about it, myself and a few friends, was making choices about how to own our own careers and how to own our own trajectory in life and make a difference for ourselves. I mean, we worked hard and did things, but by God's grace, we ended up at UPE.
Uyayazi ke into bangabana talking about isoqhayisa. Ndiyavuya mani into bangabana kubekho wena andibelapha. Because iMotherwell, yona iMotherwell nje, yodwa iMotherwell, uthi usithi uhlala pha abantu boyiki. You know, kuwe ndiyafuna uva into yobangabana umntana omncinci usurroundwe ngabantu abazi-criminals.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing unoyenza xa uselokishini into ngena kwe-crime. And ngeyona nto abantu ba-exposed kuyo.
Yes.
So use-Motherwell, akho pilot ehlala eMotherwell, akho judge ese-Motherwell, akho gqirha use-Motherwell ngaphandle kwalo uzoxilonga. Wena udibana phi nento bangabana ubone into ba man andifuni uba lapha. Mna I need ukuchuza kakuhle indlela endizakwenza ngayo izinto. Kwenzeke ntoni kuwe? And at the time uhlala nabani? Injani into? Do you have a wealthy parents? Kumnandi nje ithini into tata for you as umuntu young ngo-94? In fact, ayikhona ngo-94 le decision. Because ngo-94 ngumetric.
Metric,
so unexesha
yes.
ukuya kulo 94 for you to take ezo decisions zoba ngabana when I get ngo-94 ndifuna ukwenza for uba ndiphume apha. Iphi kuwe uyiqale phi wena njengoba abanye iitshomi zakho zifunda ukutshaya, zifunda ukunxila, zenza izinto zithini-thini. Khasa the true nje up around up.
And it was a very tough environment, right? You put it correctly, like challenging in the sense that when I moved to Motherwell, umama ebehlala, that was the time RDPs were coming up, urhulumente were apartheid esakhi RDPs at scale, right? But when I moved to Motherwell, umama ebesahlala eBobosini, literally, right? We stayed in a shack.
Wow.
Awaiting the building of our four-room house. I think the four-room house was built a year or so after I had moved to Motherwell to live with my mother. So it was by no means a wealthy upbringing. It was by no means a stable family environment even. My mother was a single mother. And at the time, in the shack was myself, my sister, and my brother was working in Cape Town. And there were a few other siblings, cousins that my mother had brought in to also live with us. My mother at the time, actually, VO, worked at the Garden Court Hotel here in PE. She was cleaning rooms. That was her work, right? So it was a difficult environment. But I think, VO, with these things, you can either choose that my environment is this bad and I'm also going to be bad just because my environment is bad. Or you can say, I've got an opportunity here to change this, not only for me, but for my mother, for my family, and for my siblings. And I've also got an opportunity to be an example to others that even someone coming out of a shack into a four-room house in Motherwell can lead and can lead in big organizations and can travel the world. The most important thing for me in all of that is choice.
Okay.
There's a point where you have to say, I'm in a terrible environment, but my choice is to rise above this environment. Look, there were a lot of other influences. There were teachers who took liking to me at school, who wanted to help and just gave me advice. There were family members who gave advice. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest game changer for me was the choice that I do not want to live in this environment my entire life. And someday when I've got my own children, I do not want them to live in an environment like this. And I'm going to do absolutely everything within my power, lawfully and in the right way, to get out of this environment. Okay. And that for me was the game changer, making that choice.
So mna ke ndiyabawela noba akho nomntu lo ukhe wambona whether wenze into embi for into yoba tyhini nasitsho mam isifa phambi kwam okanye nasitsho mam ibanjwa okanye epositive into yoba kufike umntu ehamba ngerorho yemoto and you got to ask akhange kube khona loo nto leyo hey ndiyazama ucinga psychology okanye into enokwenza umntu okokuqala kum am understanding as well into yoba umntu osemama okanye ophaa kulaa situation at that time even nangoku for that matter is so normal into yecrime is so normal into yoba to drop out is so normal into yoba ndingavele ndimithe ndiyeke isikolo akukho mntu uza kujaja apha ekuhlaleni because enext or eback efront like yinto yakhona lena so ndiyabawela nje uyazi into yoba what does it take for umntu young to say I don't want le nto ibe le nto ayisuyinto ejonga kakubi yabo into enokwenzeka into yoba ngabana hey man khazibethela kwibobosi because kukho iline ye-RDP houses kukho iline so bantwana bam for uba nibe right hamba nokhamanya amabobosi akho nto yoba mntanam qinisa apha kule nto so kwakho awusayikhumbuli into yoba kwakho kwabakho into enjalo.
Not that, and I don't want to give myself too much credit, right? Sure. I really don't, but I can't remember anything of the sort. But I must, however, give context, right?
Sure.
My dad was a very successful businessman in Grahamstown. My dad, you also, who is your dad's dad, by the way, that same person was a very successful businessman in Grahamstown. And moving to Motherwell, I was coming out of Grahamstown in a household of very successful people. Dad, very successful. My aunts, two of my aunts were nurses. My granddad, you know this better than me. My granddad also served in one of the world wars. So that family from my father's side was a very successful family, right? And they had a lot of influence in what we saw, in how we ended up also driving our own lives, right? So that had a huge influence. But being in Motherwell itself and observing other people that were successful, that were role models, that I felt that I could learn from, follow, I do not recall observing that. Babekhona omonde, of course, benezlarha nentoni. But even no Putmonde was in Blue Water Bay, right? So he was removed from us. The only experience we had of him was the butchery and the bottle store. And I like the fact that you mentioned mistakes that can be made. Because I do say that I don't want to give myself too much credit. I had my first child at the age of 19. So none of us in any way are exempt from consequences of living in that environment, right? But there's two things that are important for me. That the first one is personal conviction. That it doesn't matter what my situation is. It doesn't matter what my environment is. I believe that I can do it. That personal conviction needs to be so strong that even when you make the mistake of having a child at the age of 19, you can still say to yourself, because uyazi lokishini that hey fundini nomntana at 19 kayophangela lo mntana uzawuthini. Even when that pressure comes, that you now have a child, you need to go and work, you need to say, no, I need to finish my education. I need to make sure that I am very well set, because I'll be able to look after this child once I've got my education and I've got a proper job and a proper career. But if I stop now, then the same child that has been born will be limited to the same Motherwell environment. So that's the first thing for me, is that personal conviction. The second one is that you should never be dictated to by your environment. Right. Whether you are born of very rich, wealthy parents, that environment should not dictate who you are and who you become. Whether you are born of very poor, struggling parents in a very difficult environment, that environment is not you. You determine who you want to become in life, and that's what you focus on. So those are two things for me that are important, that help me through Motherwell.
Ndiyayithanda ke le nto, because iza kwi-point eyayindithachile kakhulu that I don't want to miss, because i-challenge ekhoyo.
Yes.
So one would say afuneka ngayihoyi uba uphi, but bekho umntana othi hey handipasile andinayo nemali ye-registration. Take us through into yoba wena usesoqhayisa, umama uphangela as a cleaner ontontoni e-garden court, and that nisebobosini okanye seyikhona RDP house, but akho apho xa uyibeka ngolo hlobo akho apho ngabakho imali ye-registration. Kwenzeka njani buye UPE? Take us through ba kwenzeka ntoni. I know it, but I would love abahlali to hear into yoba ngabana umuntu kukho ii-possibilities njani.
Yes.
And kuwe kwenzeka njani. That actually touched me.
No. Very clear view. Look, it comes back to me to this thing about personal conviction, right? So I always believed that I could get out of that environment, but I also knew that it would take a lot of hard work to get out of that environment. So I dedicated myself to a lot of hard work to get out of the environment, right? To back up the personal conviction. So in my standard 11. What grade is that now?
Standard 9.
Standard 9, grade 11.
Yes,
Standard 9, grade 11. So in my standard 9, grade 11, right, I had worked so hard that my average pass mark was 94%. I did say earlier it was a bad school, right? But I took advantage of the situation. So I studied hard and worked really hard, and that resulted in me getting an average of 94% in standard 9. So that helped, even though I did not know at that point how it would help. One of our teachers was a maths teacher at the University of Port Elizabeth. Yes, a very good maths teacher, actually. She was studying at the University of Port Elizabeth at the time, advancing her own studies. So the University of Port Elizabeth asked her, hey, we are going into this new dispensation now. We are going to vote and we need to bring black people into UPE to study here. So have you got any good students there in your school that we can sponsor to come and study here?
No way.
I'm not joking. I'm not joking. So this teacher was like, yes, there is actually one child who got an average of 94%. I'll ask him to send you guys his report. You can have a look. So she asked me to forward the report to her, which I did. She sent it to the University of Port Elizabeth. Just as I was starting grade 12, I got a letter from the University of Port Elizabeth saying you've been admitted to the University of Port Elizabeth, conditional on your standard 10 results. We will give you registration and part of your first year fees will be paid by the university. And that's how I ended up getting into the University of Port Elizabeth, because I had believed so much in standard 9, worked so hard to get that average of 94%, and it wasn't easy. But then chance met my hard work. And that's how life works sometimes, right? That when you're putting in the hard work, chance happens to meet your hard work somewhere. And that's how I ended up there.
Jonga, tata, le party indenza and ndiyabawela into yoba ngabana there is a child somewhere grade 11, not grade 12.
Yes.
Grade 11, ekusokolayo kokwabo. Okanye noba kuright kwabo. And enye part esiyilibalayo ngabantu, middle class usengxakini.
Kakhulu.
Middle class?
Kakhulu.
Middle class is overlooked because up in this world, the wealthy and the poorest.
Yeah.
If ukwi middle class, kuthiwa hayi umama wakho yinesi, abe unesi elapha enga-afford nix.
Njalo.
Abe utishara elapha enga-afford nix, but i-system imkhabe. Ithi no, your mom uzokwazi. La mzali akwazi uthatha umntana amse kwezi zikolo ubhatalwa kakhulu, but ibe imali yakhe yokugqibela. Now umntana if uve esi ugqiba sithetha into for uba ungene kwezi university funeka ube kanti usebenzele ku grade 11, because in any event that's how they accept you.
Spot on.
Yabona i-provisional ntos is taken from i-results zakhe umuntu ku grade 11. I normally share this with his students. Ndithi xana ndiyothetha phaa ndithi jonga, you know i-situation yakho kwenu, like awuzuba shocked. I was shocked to talk about grade 12 ba akho mali ekhaya. Like you've known it all your life.
Buhlela ekhaya since wazalwa.
Yes, your only opportunity ebomini bakho. If you get to live to be 85. Uyi-1 lo nyaka okanye nibini le minyaka. Grade 11 no grade 12 kula 85 years ozayiphila yoba ube ligeza.
Yeah.
If you miss that 2, you've got you are 18 or 20, you've got 65 years ozabaphila kwe struggle.
Yes.
65 years. Ngenxa yeminyaka mi-2. Wenze loo nto. What you are sharing right now, yabona ngoku I picture wena usiya NMU. Khaba phenjela piece into yoba ngabana you are going NMU, uyiphethe into or awuyiphethanga, but uyapha umpasile matric. What happens when you get to a school a university? Abantwana bakhatshwa ngabazali. Abantwana baze ngemirhumrhuko from eMthatha, from eMonti, from eCape Town. Wena mama wakho i-domestic work uyakhapha kumama.
Hey, vyo.
Uyayazi bokuyiwa ngaphi. Abanye abantwana bane-parents who are graduates.
Hey.
Wena ungulo mntana usuka eMotherwell.
Hey.
Unayo phofu imali yosuka eMotherwell uye esikolweni.
I
can't start up with that.
Hey, and it was a very interesting one. And you talk about these rich kids from Mthatha. That was reality that time. Hey, and they were there with their cars. I even had a friend from Bloemfontein. I won't mention his name. Maybe he'll get offended. He had a kusheshe.
Yes.
He had a kusheshe. So it was very tough. Look, when I got there, I must actually tell you a very interesting story. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer.
Okay.
So even though I had received this support from UPE, he said to me, no, go to Rhodes, register there, become a lawyer. Long story short, Rhodes accepted me into the LLB, but I couldn't make up funds to now go and register at Rhodes. So I said to my dad, listen, this Rhodes ambition of yours is not working out. So I'm going back to PE. Took a taxi. It must have been already into mid-Feb, right? I think, yes, the academic year had already started at UPE. So took a taxi, went to UPE. It was busy and buzzing at UPE, all on my own. Again, it's not about giving myself credit. It's just about this thing we're talking about of personal conviction. Yes. I just had this thing that I must make things work. I can't wait for anyone. So went to UPE. I got there and I said, hey guys, I've got this letter. Fortunately, I still had that letter.
Yes.
I've got this letter. You had already accepted me conditionally. Here are my results from standard 10, grade 12. And they said, okay, no problem. We'll take you in, but we don't have space in any of the other faculties. We only have space in the BA faculty. I said, hey, I just want to study. Just put me anywhere you can. Yeah. They gave me space on the day, actually. Confirmed, you've got space. You can start tomorrow, study your BA. And then I said to them, hey, guys, I've got another problem. Yes. If I go and stay in Motherwell, there is no way I'm going to have money to take transport every single day to come to school. So even if I cannot afford some things at Res, I have to stay at Res. And the admissions people were like, hey, Res is full. Sorry for you, it's not going to happen. I said, but who makes the decisions? Is it you who admits people into Res, or is there another department? They said to me, you can go. The lady is on the 14th floor. But she will tell you the same thing we're telling you. Academic year has started. Res has already accepted all students. It's full there, but you can go. I took the lift. I went to the 14th floor. There was a white lady there. Knocked. Fortunately, the door was open. Knocked. Said, I come in. What's wrong? I said, ma'am, I've got a very big problem. I've just been confirmed now that I can start my BA tomorrow. But the reality is that if I stay at home, I will never be able to finish my studies. So she said, okay, understand you. She picked up the phone, called, I think the guy was Mark. He was the head of Xanadu. Called Mark. Mark, have you still got space? Mark said, give me 10 minutes, I'll check. 10, 15 minutes later, Mark calls back. Like, no, we've got a room in Xanadu. The guy, I'm not joking, the guy can come. So that night, I slept at Xanadu. Even though I had not brought anything, I think it was already late afternoon. I was happy, too excited. I went to my res, checked into my room, I slept there. I only went to collect my clothes the following day in Motherwell. One suitcase on my own in a taxi back to UPE. And that's how life started at UPE. Yeah, so good fun.
Tonga, ndiyavuya uba ndingaqala uyiva ngoku, because the first time he told me, this is for anyone in South Africa. Ave what it can do. It is into ezanethemba. The reason why sino Phikelela podcast, Phikelela is to persevere.
Yes.
Phikelela doesn't mean those are small.
Yes.
It means in the bakubi but Phikelela. But also in the important is also lendo in the bangabana. You must prepare kalo. Au Phikelela nje. You know, you must prepare. If you school you must study. If you tend to kwenze njalo, ubombako bajika tata. What people don't know, okay, is ungutanci. Ungutanci endimkhumbula ndimncinci and then kwaphinda asabonana. Then ngomnye umnyaka nje ndihlala Central.
Yeah.
And then there's a lady ibona name tag yam or igama lam somewhere. Athi nguluvuyo Ngxiki. Nake athi ndithi ungekatsho ndithi yona noba ndiyamazi. Boss bongo Ngxiki si close, you know. And she mentions wena. Ndithi man mchazela ubutata wami ngusiduda. Yabo mchazela ubutata wami ngusiduda. And then bephinde sinqabelana nelady sishare flat apha eCentral yabo. Then ethubeni after a week or two athi hey man didibene naye uNgange uthi usithuda ngubrother wakhe ndithi angutancwambo slow hey jonga, all I can say to you ngela xesha ndanina 2-3 years ndi drop out esikolweni and ngela xesha yayiseqala uvakala into yoba ngabana ndenze imistake enkulu because ngela xesha kwakusekuqalisa ukungena intanga zam euniversity ngoku besendibabona ngoku abantu into yoba heyi lona ndanifunda naye because ngoku ndikubona mna bekumele uba ndibhale umatric at 17.
Yes.
So u-18 unyuka kukuba intanga zam ke ngoku ebendisenza nazo esikolweni zenza i-first year e-university. So when you're probably on your 3rd year
Ngela xesha,
ngela
yes,
xesha.
yes.
Yho tata i-family member ndiyavuya ukubona kuwe but into endenza ndibe proud ndibe nemincili ndithini is ukubona uba ngabana kwalapho ku-SRC you are serving. So ngoku le university ingaka
Yes.
kwenzeka njani umfana wasesoqhayisa umfana wasesoqhayisa uphatha abelungu uphatha abantu abasuka PPP all over the country.
Yeah.
Yenzeka njani? I was just so proud into yoba ngabana hey utancwam hey and ngoku xa ndindedwa ndingathethi namntu I'm like you ndingaze ndihambe kwezi building because anaye kaloku mna drop out esikolweni at the time, so I don't even see myself ndiphathe ezincwadi zingaka but ndaya phaa e-UPE ndayokubona ithini kwenzeke njani uba sowuphatha ngoku irole. Yabo ngabana sendimane ndibona into yoba ngabana uthathe ii-decisions ezithile esoqhayisa.
Yes.
Ezaa decisions akulidisha for into yoba even though ingekho imali endlini but ukwazile uyongena
Yeah.
ngoku se-UPE uyafunda yenzeka njani into yoba people bakubone into yoba we want ukulidishwa nguwe a leading role because ndikuvile xa besiqala into yoba ngabana uthethe ngendlela omuve ngayo in these big companies ekudala ndiba-proud ngazo ngoku. But what people don't know is uqale kwaseyunivesithi if not phayana but busowulidisha eyunivesithi ithini into apho?
A very interesting one, actually. Look, one of the things you have to do in life is look and search for opportunities, right?
Okay.
Search, and we did that the first time we got to UPE. We're like, what opportunities exist for us here to have an impact? And one of the opportunities that existed was the opportunity of subcommittees. So the SRC in our first year had subcommittees, and the subcommittees had to go and engage students on matters concerning the university, right? So whatever we were concerned about, the subcommittees would have to come and talk to us in small groups. The biggest opportunity that we found out of that was that if you were able to participate in those forums and participate meaningfully, so we were not toying and fighting.
Yes.
We were contributing meaningfully and saying how things could change for the better, coming up with creative ideas on how to help students live a better life and have a better experience at university. So we identified that. I say we because there must have been about 3 or 4 of us, myself, Vuisa, Boniface, and other people. And we felt that that was really a huge opportunity to participate meaningfully in those subcommittees. Then some of the Grotmans that were there, Abos Piwochai, Bramawonga, were like, hey man, these young guys, they are not just there and fighting everything. They are coming up with creative ideas on how we can do things differently. So they started pulling us into their subcommittees. And they said, come boys, serve here. We will teach you how to lead. We will teach you how to run these functions that we are running today. So I ended up in Spio Chai. He's also from Ngxiki, nice Rotman. I ended up in his subcommittee, a transformation subcommittee. And I learned a lot from Spio. Traveled around the country, introduced us. Yes, we had minibuses at UPE. Sticker.
Yeah.
So during holidays, he would get us into those minibus taxis We would drive around the country, go meet other SRC bodies from other institutions. And from that, I learned a lot about leadership. And I got very good exposure. Where Vuyisa and I, which I'm sure is something you're going to want to touch on later on, we became very involved in the entertainment side of the we became very involved in the entertainment side of the university. So our names were very well known because of that. And that was born out of necessity. We didn't have money, so we started an entertainment company. And that entertainment company got our names to be known in the university. So from learning from Sipiwe's subcommittee and learning leadership there and being exposed to greater things across the university and building a name through that social entertainment company, people started realizing that this is someone maybe we can give an opportunity to. I became very involved through that. Then I became involved in SASCO. And became a very active member of SASCO. SASCO appointed me, I think in my second year at university, appointed me as the political education officer. Again, I must give credit to people like Spio Gai, Mawonga, and those people, Bra Wiseman. Bra Wiseman actually used to be in a senior leadership position here in Gqeberha. Okay. But those guys really molded us, gave us the opportunity, trained us. So by the time I got to my third year, I was actually ready to lead because I had taken the opportunities that were available to me, because I had actively participated in the systems of the university, and this is something especially for young people that we need to accept. Okay. Being taught by others and being corrected by others and listening to that correction is so important. People like Spiwe, Mawonga were tough on us as youngsters. When they saw us over partying and not attending lecturers, they would call us in and say, "Hey, boys, you are in my subcommittee. You can't behave like that. You are compromising me and yourself. Fix your behavior." Now, things like that we listened to, even though at the time it seemed fun to be out there partying every single day of the week, but we listened to their correction and their direction. And I think out of that, people could then see the leaders that we were becoming. And out of that, then they gave us the opportunity. I stood for the transformation office in my third year. And yes, I beat, I think, 2 people that I was competing with to the vote. And I won the election to become the transformation officer and deputy president of the SRC. And then I started getting access to stickers.
That's the time ndiyafika in your life, you know. Ndiyafuna ukutsho into yoba yahlala kum ukubona time yami upset in my life, but having uncle and proud. And yazi at the time ndiliginze elibhityileyo, azibhadlanga into ndizenzayo, but ukubona I knew uba nantsi indlela erayithi. So at that time I could tell into yoba umuntu othatha decisions ezirayithi kumele uba kunjeni ubomi bakhe.
Yes.
Any criminal out there, akho criminal enjoyayo laa nto yenzayo pha. Ngabantu bathatha decisions ezirongo qha uye ngokakasakwazi ujika. Yamazi umuntu otyibilikayo aqomba hey kubi phezantsi but akakwazi ujika la
phakathi kakhulu.
Hayi uyatyibilika ngoku. But nakaqina isibindi ngoku into yoba ngabani no ndifuna le nto. Kubani umuntu oright engqondweni onofuna ukwenza lo nto. So at the time ndiyafuna uthi kwakusekulate for him at that time into yoba ndingathini, but yayibekekile kum into yoba if ndingalungisa ubomi bam, this is the life endifunayo.
Yes.
For him.
Yes.
But at that time ndingenathemba loba ndizawuphila okanye ndizawubhantinta okanye ndizakwenza ntoni ebomini bam. So thank you so much for being that person.
Yeah, thanks.
So I was really touched. Iyandithatha indise kwinto yoba ngabana soon after that wenza into zakho wagqiba sesiclose ngoku. Uyangena emsebenzini. Once again mna ndihamba nento zam zobutsotsi ndiyangapha eJoburg ndiyoba butsotsi eJoburg. I get there again. Nguwe, you are working for a big company. And not just nje company thing, une position up.
Yeah.
Iyaphinde yabuya ingqondo yam into yoba ngabana, hey, abantu xa bethe bachoose isikolo, this is what happens. So there were two things endandistrugglisha ngazo at the time. One, I don't know uba ndizabanjwa nini. Two, at times funeka siromole, singadutyulwa, singathinthini. Here you are wena uyaphangela. Unemoto, une-apartment yakho. Like busy, like awukho free, like busy, you've got work to do.
Yeah.
And I would look at this, ndikoma yo, hey, hayi ndiyibhudile le way. And ngoku ke ngoku umtyibiliko ngoku.
So pha.
Sisezantsi ngokuba ndi-close uba ndiyangena enyunywini ngoku. Inyunyu ndiyayibona ngokuba, hey, andikwazi nojika ngoku imkile into. I was just nje proud. Kakusithathe because now that marks for anyone ongayaziyo. That marks 25 years ago. That was year 2000.
Yeah.
Silapa today, you've got the experience at 25 years. And out of the 25 years, zange kwabekho kwaphela inyanga, kwaphela ixesha elithi ngakhange sithethe.
Yes.
And kuzo zonke, I've seen you touch on indawo. Wenza izinto, ndi-proud nje.
Yeah.
Kakusithathe true nje into yoba ngabana ngoku, nje masihleli apha, the experience onayo, izinto odibene nazo, uye wazidibanisa for into yoba ngabana, you can share with abanye abantu. But just nje for wena, ndikunike nje opportunity ukuthi, zindoni obawela sikhe sitatshe kuzo, into yoba ufunde ndoni le 25 years.
Yes.
Corporate.
Yes. Hey, Vio, I learned a lot, right? You know, exactly the time you're talking about in Alberton when I was working for the South African breweries. You and I used to have a lot of, you've never consumed alcohol, by the way.
Yeah.
And at the time I was. And we would have, they would serve food and play pool on Friday evenings. I remember you and Dobbs would come there almost every Friday. It was good fun. And look, I've always appreciated how close we've been and how much of an inspiration yourself have been to myself, all of the work that you've done. Yeah. Look, when it started for me, I came into SAP full of passion. And I was like, I'm going to change things here. I'm going to excel. They're going to tell me what to do, and I'm going to exceed everything that they tell me what to do. And I really did that, right? If they said to me, fly, I would say, hey, guys, you are talking about flying here. Me, I'm going to fly there. Oh, wow. I wanted to exceed absolutely everything. And then I got to a point because they brought me in as a human resources trainee.
Okay.
And then into 6 months into that role, I started asking myself, hey, I'm still a trainee here. And I'm being told that I'm exceeding everything that they're asking of me. So why am I not moving from trainee now to a permanent role? That's when I realized that corporate doesn't work the way we think it does. Corporate does not work on achieving and excelling on your tasks only. It's important, especially in the early stages, right? One of the things I learned very quickly was that there's a lot of unsaid rules in the corporate world.
Okay.
There are unsaid rules about how strongly networked you are. You, for example, are an expert on building networks, connecting with people. When you do that, you get support from people because they know who you are, they know who they are supporting, they know the brand they are supporting in you as a person. So I learned, okay, there are other things here. I'm just focusing on doing my work and doing it excellently. But the general manager of this business does not know me. He does not know who I am. He does not know what I'm capable of. Until I can sit somewhere and have a beer with him and just connect with him as a human being, he will not know me and he will not know who I am. So I learned a lot. Okay, there's something about network. I didn't call it networking then.
Yeah.
Maybe I called it just knowing people and talking to people.
Yes, yes.
Today I call it networking. I also learned something, Vio. You know, at SAP we're selling very strong brands, Castle, Culling Black Label. And I was thinking to myself, there's a lot of money being spent on marketing these brands so that consumers know what these brands are about, what these brands stand for. And I thought to myself, what am I doing about myself as a brand? Because surely I'm also a brand, right? Am I marketing myself? Do people know what I stand for? Do I show up in the right way? Am I dressing properly when I go to work? When I engage with people, do they know that I'm not a fighter? I'm here to build the business and help to build the business. So I started saying to myself, okay, let me build myself also as a brand. And hey, thanks, Tate. Ndiyazama. Ndifunda kuwe, ndibona kwezi posts zakho Facebook. So I thought to myself, let me build myself also as a brand and position myself so that people know what they're buying into. Because when you walk into a place and they're like, who's this guy? But when you walk into a place, they must say, oh, that's Luvuyo. That's the guy who owns Phikelela. That's the guy who owns iinkumbuzo. That's the guy who's got talks. Oh, that's the guy who's disciplined. If you invite him to your function, he's going to do things properly. Even if your function is disorganized, Luvuyo will find a way to help you organize it. That's a brand. When people talk about you, that's what they talk about. And then everyone wants to buy into that brand because it's a very compelling brand. So I started building a brand around myself, and people started saying, we like something about you, but we can't say what it is. That's when the brand Ngxiki then started working, right? So what I've done recently, VO, is I've taken all of these learnings that are not said in the corporate world and no one teaches you about, and that have helped me to accelerate my career. I'm working for Kerry Ingredients in a general manager position, running the country, not only South Africa, but Southern Africa, right? That's my most recent role. Go check my socials. You'll see me there with the ambassador of Ireland somewhere. But that was my most recent role, VO, and that's a very big role, right? But the thing is, it's because I applied all of these things that I learned that are not said and not openly communicated in the corporate world. But what I've now done is I've taken all of these learnings and put them into a book called Grow Your Career. Because what I've been trying to do, we've got Lungi with us in the room today, who I met at Tiger Brands. I did a lot of work. She reminded me today, actually, with her on coaching her on how businesses run on the profit and loss statement. They don't run on fun. If your job is not adding value to the profit and loss statement in a business, that means you are possibly not relevant to that business. And people don't know these things. So I've taken all of these things because I've been coaching people throughout the years, and people have been saying to me, hey, we like your mentorship, we like your coaching, we like your understanding of how the corporate works. Can you put it into a book for us? So I've just recently finished that project now. There's a book that's come out called Grow Your Career. It's circulating on socials, and it's just me sharing what I've learned with the world so that people don't go through the same mistakes I went through, so that people can accelerate their careers a lot faster maybe than what I even did, right? Like you come across people, VO, who are saying, yeah, I'm doing everything they want from me at work, but I'm not being promoted. And when I talk to people, I always say, it's because maybe you are missing these things that I've now put in the book. So if you feel you are in that space, you are new to the world of work, you feel like you are working hard, but you're not getting promoted, that's what my book will help you with. It's helping you to understand what are these things that matter for your career, but no one is going to teach you about. My book helps you with that.
Tata, congratulations.
Thank you.
Author, congratulations. Mamela, what you are saying to me, Ngoku, it gets me thinking, Ndoba. Uyayazi uba throughout ubomi bam, into yomntu ozawukhula kwi-career, into yomntu ozawuthini soloko sidibanisa nentakatho. Funeke ube kanti ufake iyeza. Hey,
say something.
Tata, andifuni bandibethe abantu basebhisho. Okoko ndava izitori zalaa bhisho uba kudiphi kukho into ezidibanisa namayeza. Zange ndakhe ndaphangela ebhisho, zange ndakhe ndaphangela phi. But those are the popular nantsika stories ezizivayo. Into yoba hayi ke if awusebenzisa iyeza kwii-government departments ezithile, kwiindawo ezithile, bayathakatha abanye abantu.
Yes.
So it's good ukuva into yoba ngabana there are other things ezi-practical ekukho i-experience yabonakala over iminyaka.
Yes.
Incwadi nakukhona into zentakatho tata phaa okanye
Oh, you know, I was raised by my grandmother until about the age of 6.
Okay.
Then my dad, then my mother, like I said. You know what my grandmother and mother taught me, which has never left me up to today, is that in everything you do, trust God.
Okay.
Trust God.
Okay.
Believe in God. He exists. He created heaven and earth. And if you trust completely in Him, He will open doors for you that you have never imagined in your entire life.
Aye.
That's what I believe in. The second thing I believe in after that is hard work. Work, be clear about where you want to go. In my book, I talk a lot about this. Okay. Have clarity of vision. Know where you want to go. It's like you can't wake up one morning and say, hey, I want to go to a nice place. It must have the beach. You must say, okay, I want to go to Cape Town.
All right.
But I'm currently in Quebec.
Okay.
Then you plan that route and then you work hard and make sure that you get to Cape Town. So have that clarity of vision and work hard towards it. But first and foremost, trust God.
Okay. Mamela ke ngoku tata. Mnake kuba bengekho abanye abantu for
By the way, to your question on into entakatho, I must tell you a very funny story. When we were at UPE, so I wanted to be re-elected for in my honors year, my 4th year at university. I wanted to be re-elected for the transformation officer position again.
Okay.
And someone, I cannot mention name on this one because it's a dangerous territory.
Okay.
Someone said to me, hey, you've got tough competition, man. Go speak to this timer in New Brighton. He will sort you out. Hey, VO, that timer gave me something, small bottle like this. It looks orange inside. Said, just shake this thing before you go talk to people. Put it here on your eyebrows. You will win. Hey, and now I started. Then go and present. I lost that election. I lost that election, yo. My 4th year at university, I didn't have money. I didn't have any positions. I couldn't wait to start work. So, long story short, I will never go back there. There is nothing for me there. I don't believe in that. I trust God and I work hard.
Ay, diyakuva.
Yeah.
Diyakuva no lesson leyo. Now, hey, kukho umama ubukela. She's beautiful. Fundile esikolweni. Blessed. She works hard.
Yes.
Nangu umphathi wakhe. Umphathi wakhe ukhula in a low self-esteem. Umphathi wakhe ukhula engabonwa engajongwa ngosisi. Umphathi wakhe, because of a position of power, uthi akho mntu mna endizakwenza bakho reviews mos bekho into zowutshekisha assesswe into yoba ayidongi into zakho nantoni. Umassessa is umuntu ongasebenziyo. Otherwise yena uba ngabana uyenza izinto angalale naye uyenyuka. Uthini to such a lady elithi eli lizwe lamadoda ngekho nyani ucorporate ndiyamshiya mna ngoku. Mna ndimncamile ucorporate ngoku because kaloku ucorporate kudominate amadoda and amadoda aza kunyusa only if uhlisa ipeyinti. Ithini into apho tata? Do you have something in the book for into yoba ngabana kukho ithemba? Ndayazi ke bangoku zitshintshile izinto ke as well ke tata. Ukongeza kukho namaxhekwaza ufuna abafana. So ngoku sinengxaki ye-leaders nabantu bakwi-management who are using the positions for into yoba ngabana iza kaloku yayazi into kumele uyayenza. And then ngoku umuntu asebenze yonke into kufike islay queen. Siqonda sona islay queen yejonga yewethu mna ngiqhela ukwenza lento for free kuandile. Ngoku apha ifundile nalo muntu izawunyuka imali yami nge-30,000. Hayi suka naxesha lo muntu mna makaze siqhube sizokwazi unyuka. Career ke zizinto ezesifunda ngazo zizinto esizivayo abantu bekhala be-depressed besithini. Have you catered for such kwincwadi yakho okanye kwi-trainings ozenzayo xa facilitate? How do you advise such?
Look, it's a very tough one, VO. And I don't think I'm even well placed actually to front into it, to be honest, because it tends to happen more from a gender disproportionate point of view, in that males are usually in control in that position. You are right. Lately, there are older women who are also doing the same things. But generally, males are usually in control in that situation. So a lady who's experienced it may have been better placed than me to front into it. But for me, it's a bigger issue of corruption that we have accepted in society. That for things to move forward, someone has to do something illegal, be it a sexual favor, be it paying a facilitation fee. There's a broader issue that society has just accepted on corruption in general. To come back to your specific question, I know of a friend, a very close friend, who actually chose to lose a job out of principle. Chose to lose a job. And she actually struggled. She tells her own story on social media very openly. She struggled for about 2 years, had to go back to Grahamstown, family home with her 2 sons, and stay there because the boss was consistently asking for sexual favors for her to stay at work. Eventually, the boss fired her unfairly because she refused. So I'm inspired by that story. Someone who chose to stand for principle even at that huge a cost. So my advice firstly is that there has to be some principle, because these things are also made possible by us. If I participate, then it becomes the norm. But if I stand on principle, then maybe I am changing it for other generations. In fact, this guy later on ended up being fired. This lady stood for principle, inspired other ladies who I believe later on started reporting on this because they felt it cannot continue. But someone started it, stood on principle at huge cost to herself, and then other people followed. And as a result, this guy was dealt with. So that's the one part, right? The other part is that generally in corporates today, there are processes, there are rules, and you can report these things and people can be dealt with. But of course, if you are scared of losing your job, be very careful about who you report to and not compromise yourself, but find a safe space where you can report. But for me, the example of someone standing on principle at potential cost to themselves is a very inspiring story.
Okay. So I'm excited by you've decided ukubangabana wenza le ncwadi. I hope you will also have sessions. I hope companies, if unga available, zingakubukisha for you to facilitate some of the things that you've written in the book. And maybe ezinye zingabhalwanga encwadini, you'll have an opportunity to expand kuzo.
Yes.
You know? Ndingavuya. Andani bufuna utacha on that.
Yes, VO. Actually, my passion is about sharing my learnings.
Okay.
Far less about selling the book and driving sales. So exactly to your point, I want to start creating platforms where I can share my learnings. So Lungi and I, who does a lot of the marketing on our journey, setting up virtual connection sessions where we're going to invite people to have conversations and share the learnings. We will have talks where we are going to go out to people and share the learnings. And what we're passionate about is helping people and helping people to accelerate their own careers and grow their own careers. So you are spot on. We will set up various platforms where we are going to engage with people and share what we have learned and answer questions and give people the opportunity to engage with us and help them accelerate their career growth.
Okay. Tata, this, I must say, iyanivuyisa to hear. You know, iyandivuyisa kakhulu into yoba ngabana this is what we need. Ndicross fingers into yoba ingafunwa nangu-government. Thina abantu bethenda, we are struggling kwa-government into yoba people are placed phayana and thina ii-processes neentoni siyastrugglisha kakhulu. So having you uphinde unikezele ngento ezinjalo singancedakala as a country.
Yes.
This is very important. Tata, thank you so much for joining us up. This is not the last time.
Yeah.
We'll share more. Sizakhe singene, I mean, the next one, as I've many chance, I would like us singene with chapters encwadi.
Yes.
Ngoku besithetha more nje ngawe, abantu bayazi, you know, but ndiyafuna xa siphinda sisenza singene nakwi-chapters encwadi yakho. Thank you so much, Matata. Ndiveka mandi.
It's been an absolute honor. I've been looking forward to this platform for such a long time. When you launched your podcast, I have to be there.
Phikelela podcast.
Phikelela podcast. Yes. When you launched Phikelela podcast, I was certain that I want to be there. I want to be part of this journey. Based on the great work, outstanding work that you have done. I just wanted to be part of the journey. So it's been an absolute honor to be here. It was more fun than I anticipated, actually. It was a lot more fun than I anticipated, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.